Hello.
Yeah, I
So,
want to think about today. It's been on my mind, and I've thought a little bit about it and stuff about how influenced we are by what other people say,
okay.
and how it can really shape us. I think what things are in my mind at the minute about how what I've been heard or what I've been told from a young child that have really shaped me growing up, but that I've kept with me as an adult, even when there's
Right.
been lots of evidence to say no, I've still held them beliefs. Um, Particularly, what I'm thinking about is particularly some of the things that my mum said uh, about me growing up, but also one thing that I don't often talk about because I've kept it secret a long time is the impact that the church had on me. And although although the sexual abuse and rape that I experienced as a child wasn't in the church organisation or anything like that, the church did end up having a real big influence on how I accepted or how I saw that experience.
What did what influenced that for you to accept what
Um,
had happened?
I think as a child, looking back and remembering, I was because when I was abused, it was by somebody who I thought was safe. So I didn't, for some reason, I thought I couldn't trust my own judgment. So I was looked at everybody around me and took on what they said, even as simple as should I have my hair cut, should I do this, should I do that. I felt that I couldn't trust my own judgment anymore. So everything everybody else said, I took on there and forgot about my own instinct, my own gut, or what I might like or not like, because I felt that I couldn't trust myself. So,
Did you so not figuring out that you were, you're saying I wasn't safe,
mm,
um, because you knew the person, but the person was introduced by the people around you,
yeah,
and yet you told yourself a conflicting story that the people around you were safe.
yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah, um, yeah. That is conflictory, and I'm not
Yeah.
see. I didn't see that, but as a child, I thought this person was nice and safe. I don't like what they're doing to me or making me do. I can't trust
You.
my gut, my decisions
Yeah.
anymore.
So can you see how then within that we blame ourselves rather
Mm,
than acknowledging there's if you know we're in we're in an environment that's not well,
mm,
and so we blame ourselves because of the environment we've just entered,
yeah.
um, so we can survive the environment.
Mm, yeah, I'd never know. I didn't think I blamed myself, but saying it like that, yeah, I did
Yeah,
that.
because you started to say that like children often do. I'm defective. They're okay that
Yeah,
I'm defective. And that's and so we're told that we're defective anyway, don't we?
yeah,
Growing up, but actually it's the people that are
yeah.
teaching us that they learned that they were defective.
And
So
then, in a way, contradictory.
mm,
I did feel, even though I'm saying I didn't feel as if I were blaming myself, but I did feel that there was something wrong with me because they made it seem a normal activity that I was just being awkward and not wanting to join in. I felt as if there was something wrong with me. I were awkward. I didn't want to join in a normal activity. So there was conflictory there that you're not safe because I don't like what you're doing to me, but my judgment isn't safe because it's all mixed up then, isn't it?
yeah, because you just can't trust yourself because you're constantly being ignored
Mm,
and just told that you're not complying. In the world of humans pretending to be robots, really, that's the
mm,
best way that I can put it. Is that we're told must, should, have to, got
mm,
to fit into something that isn't for us to really fit into as human
mm,
beings. We're orchestrated in a program to be a robot and
mm,
not to be human with thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So quite often when you're a child as well, as I said, most children don't have any rights, and well, majority of children, I don't think have any rights because they have to go, when you're older, imagine going to a job you dislike and it causes you stress and you can't stand it anymore and you're going to the doctors and everybody's got empathy for you and you need 2 weeks off and you need all this and you need all that. But when you're a child, that barely gets listened to. So it's like, well, you've got to go. I don't want to go. Well, you've got to go. And then what the child learns is that, well, I'm not important enough and my opinion isn't important. And then, quite often, oh, they just don't like that. And it's like then they get gaslit. The other thing is if you don't really love yourself, you don't really love anyone else. And what I mean by that is, say for instance, food, as we've looked at food, is we know chemicals aren't good to eat. You won't eat washing powder, you won't eat all of those things. You know that the chemicals in the food isn't good to eat, but we blindly eat it. And so we don't love ourselves enough not to. And because we don't love ourselves enough not to, we'll feed it to our children.
Yeah.
We know that we're being programmed with nastiness every day on a daily basis. We try to get away from nasty thoughts, but yet we'll electively watch nasty things on the phone. And so then we'll give it all to our children as well to watch. And some of the programs that the children watch, even in children's programs, are nasty. And so then we're just then feeding the child exactly the same thing. So it's like that, as Dr. Sebi said, if you don't love yourself, you do not love the world. And you can see that happening because our minds are being taken over by this stuff rather than being able to think for ourselves. We're being given these machines and apps and all of these kind of things to think for us. It rends our humanness.
And I think, like you said, it's just thought like there is like TV programs when you're little and stuff like that, but also phrases that people use that influence such a young mind, and because they might not be intended that way, but when you can't guarantee how they're interpreted, I'm just thinking of stuff like, always, adults do as you do what you're told. If it's an adult telling you, you respect your elders. So when an older person is abusing you, and it's that kind of thing, and just some simple things, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. All those contribute to you not having a voice as a child, not thinking you can say an adult might be doing something that isn't good or that you don't like. I've mentioned before, my mum always used to say, don't rock the boat, be careful what you say. And it's like all those things put together when you're getting it in different directions. At school, you've got to do as you're told, you've got to wear an adult, you're the child. And it's like, if you're getting that bombarded with you all the time, it does influence who you become.
Well, it does, because it teaches you that you're in a prison.
Yeah.
You don't realise you're in a prison because it's pretended freedom. But it's not, it's a prison. And because you're taught you're in a prison, you've been told the prison rules. And then we make our prisons very comfortable, don't we? Get nice cushions and nice curtains for our prisons. And that's what we do. But ultimately, we're prisoners. And, we orchestrated then that just because we don't have chains and shackles around us like they used to do to the slaves that they had here and in other countries, just because we don't have them in matter doesn't mean they're not psychologically around your neck. That's why you know that you're going to get into trouble if you don't do certain things, even as an adult. If you don't pay the tax man, what they're going to do? Take your rights away. You don't have any rights in the first place because you have to do it.
Yeah.
You must, you should, you have to, you've got to. It's programmed into you as a child. When you say, well, it might not be purposeful, well, a lot of it is. It can't not be, can it? It can't not be. If you've got fear as an
I try
adult,
to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I try to always look and say, well, it's not intentional, but it's my interpretation of it. I guess, like with my example of the church that I'm going to give later on, it's like, maybe that was intentional. I'm trying to give them a benefit of the doubt.
Do you think it's accident? Do you think it's, how much of it do you think really can be accidental? If we're like on a conveyor belt. So you're born and you go to school, you get programmed, you go to the factory learning machine, You go to school, you learn should, have to, got to, and fear to do as you're told. You leave school, majority of stuff in school, majority of people don't use it anyway, but they will have an A star in the should, have to, got to, and fear, and that's what they're going to have. And then that'll get them ready to go to work. So you start work there, you're getting trained for work. You don't need to spend all that time in school learning to read and write.
But I'm doing it now. I'm like, I don't want to say something negative. It's like I'm trying. I know their intention wasn't like this, so it's like that. What I've held is still with me now.
How can it not be intent?
Yeah.
How can it not be intent? If it wasn't intentional, when does somebody come and say, "Sorry about that, I made an error"?
Yeah.
Because how long has this been going on for before somebody's going to say, "I made an error because that wasn't my intent"? If people are getting sicker and sicker, not weller and weller, and we're fighting against this and we're fighting against that, it's like at some point you've got to say, is this purposeful then? Because this has been going on for a long time. You know, when you see advertisement on TV and it's like these poor countries and they need food and they need our aid and they need all this, and it's like some of them are that old, they're probably grandparents by now.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's like, if something has to, I'm saying like as well, if something has to repeat itself over and over again, at some point you know that, well, if it's not work, if you keep wiring a plug up and the plug won't switch on, why would you keep wiring it the same way? And so we're supposed to be intelligent. Is that not what we've been told? That we're the most intelligent beings? Are we really? Or are we just asleep in a program, being programmed by these things that are very contradictory? And we don't look beyond them. We just look at what somebody tells us, but we don't look beyond and say, let me see who's benefiting from this. Who's benefiting from us being sick?
I didn't realise I was still so much influenced by that, giving people the benefit of the doubt. I can't say anything. So that's really shocked me. We're just having this conversation thinking, I'm trying to give them an excuse, a reason that it wasn't intentional.
It's just accident that they put chemicals in food. It's by accident.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to put chemicals on an apple. An apple tree can do itself fine. All of these things were fine. Do you know what I mean? That it works very fine. We can't create nature. It creates itself. But we can create something else. We can create a money-making machine. So we become part of the cog in the wheel, part of the machine. This machine here it's like gold. You can make loads of money off it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if it's defective, then why do we eat chemicals? If it's already defective.
It's just blown my mind.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it, when you look beyond that and you say, well, if we are defective and we go from one chemical factory to another, so we eat chemicals and then we eat more chemicals to try and suppress what these chemicals have done, then who are we doing that for and who's benefiting?
It's sort of like many think I'm a little bit freer than what I was as a child and an adult before I started therapy, but I'm still really influenced by those things that people told me and instilled with me, and I took on board as gospel, as the truth. It's like, but why can't I say anything negative about a person if there is something negative? I just think,
why does it have to be, and even that's a made up thing of, well, that's negative and that's positive.
Yeah.
Because it feels in a certain vibration, doesn't it? That feels good, that doesn't feel good. But does that skew you from saying the truth?
It does me.
Yeah, and
it's like I dared.
You can't say that, can you? Yeah. You can't say that. How many times did you hear that? You can't say that. It's like, well, why?
Every time I leave the house, practically my mum goes, be careful what you say. Don't upset anybody.
The thing is about human beings that we don't accept that we're evil. We don't accept that. We just want to pretend to be good all the time. And yet we watch evil things. We say evil words.
Yeah.
We treat each other appallingly sometimes. We can be nasty to ourselves. We can be nasty to others. So, but we still pretend that we're good.
Yeah.
We still pretend that we're something else.
I don't know. Somebody used a term to describe it, and I saw it online. I can't remember what it is. About the opposite of like we give out this, we've got to be positive all the time, we've got to look for the lesson in it, we've got to toxic positivity or something, and daily affirmations and all positive but it's like you said, there is that selfish side of us, there is that dark side of us that we don't want to admit.
But that's the learning, is not, when people have these toxic, all these made up names that we have. Do you see what I mean? So it's like we can make a name up for anything, but we're just literally making names up without actually saying, let's not make the name up, let's have a look behind what we're doing. Just have a look behind what we're doing instead of having label after label after label. Because then you're just going to look at the label and you're not going to look at, the construct is, how did that start? How did that build up? How did that behaviour begin? What happened?
And I think people don't like that, because I know I found it on social media when I speak about my experiences. Some, not all, but there are some who are like, we don't want to hear that, Nat, about that. It's in the past. You've got to be positive. What can you learn from it? What can you move on? What can you live on? How, and it's like,
you've got to be.
Yeah, but
is that another rule?
I don't know, but it's like, you can't just dismiss what's happened. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm a bit confused with that, but yeah, you can't be positive or look on the bright side all the time. Sometimes you've got to reflect on that, the experience that you've had that are not nice, or like I've recently been thinking about some of the things that I've been doing that are not nice, but they were sort of like a survival technique or this, that, and that, but they were not nice to other people. When I've hurt people, like I used to hit my dad and stuff like that. It's like, I wasn't nice. And you've got to, I think you can't just dismiss it.
Well, it is, in a sense, it's looking at the way that we are and saying, there are things that we don't like. So if you say something, you're just like your parent, they're like, I like my parent, but of course you are, because you learn from them. And so, some children, we learn all kinds from our parents. Like you might phone your friend up and the daughter answers and like, my God, your daughter sounds exactly the same as you do. Or your son sounds exactly the same as you do. Of course, because we have to learn from someone how to speak and how to be and how to act and react. And that's what we do, we learn from them. So the learning is, once we learn that, we also need to learn our humanness, which we don't. We learn how to be a human doing, but we're not learning how to be a being, because the beingness and part of us is being dismissed. And so then that's what the discomfort is in your body. The discomfort is your body keeps saying, I want this out. And as I say, you need an emotional and psychological poo. Yeah, and some people are embarrassed to have a poo. Like, do you get embarrassed when you get that cutting pain across your stomach, you need to go to the toilet? No, don't get embarrassed for this one then. So it's like that. It's like, because it's the only difference is that we were taught to go to the toilet for one, and for the other you need to shut that off.
Yeah.
And that's the only difference. And it's just being able to let it out and say, this is what went on. And once I've let go of all of this and I've let go of the past and, figured it out and healed from that, and learned that none of what happened to me has anything to do with me. It's not my business. It was somebody that put their stuff onto you because somebody put their stuff onto them. And, that's what you learn. And then you learn to put it onto someone else. But what we're doing, we're actually just showing each other the crap that's inside of us. If crap comes out of somebody's mouth, what's that got to do with you?
And as a child, you don't know when it's coming from an adult who you've been told to
up,
respect.
You say, and that's it. So, for instance, like child who's had the human rights taken away from them and they can't go to the toilet, unless that person, the arrogance of a person saying to a young child, you can't go to the toilet, it's not time. Unless they can make a bladder, make me a bladder in the human being, or can you make a toenail? They have no right to do that. And so we speak about having laws for human rights, but then they get changed. So the law, it just takes it null and void, doesn't it? And it's like we have these legislations and these laws, and it's like equality. So that's a great one, equality. So we have these laws for equality, but yet we'll change this legislation. So we're not saying that you're all not equal, but because time's passed, now we can say, oh, do you see what I mean? So last year it was like that, and this year it's going to be like this. Well, that's inequality. No, because there's a little flaw in it. I haven't picked a particular race. I've done it to all of you. I've done it to all of you because we invented time. So time's passed now. So we're not going to do that anymore. Now we're going to do it like this. But it's still, it bastardizes inequality then, doesn't it? Because it's like, and it's these things that are fickle. They are just fickle within us. And then you're trying to manage them. But somebody already orchestrated it. And they didn't do it by accident. They did it on purpose.
So let's look at my experience with the church. So growing up to the age of 10, 11, not a religious family or anything like that. The sexual abuse and rape that I experienced stopped by the time I was 11 and went to high school. Going to high school, I kept myself to myself, but the girl who sat next to me tried to befriend me and encourage me to go out socially and stuff. And usually I made an excuse to say that I couldn't know because I didn't like mixing with people. On the odd occasion when I did feel bad for lying, because I'd say I'm going to my auntie's and I ain't even got an auntie, I went and socialised. The activities that she asked me to go to were at her church where she went. So it was like a barbecue and this, that and other. But it was like led by people from the church. And I can very much recall and visualise it now. It's still very ingrained in me where I was sitting and everything. That there was a barbecue, and during the barbecue they did you all sat down and they did like a bit of Bible reading and stuff like that. And to me that was new. I'd never even read the Bible or whatever. And some of the things that they said I interpreted to fit my situation. So some of the things that they were saying were like, it's wrong to have sex before marriage. Girls, be careful what you wear because you could be giving boys the wrong impression, like you're asking for it, as they said. And also people who...
All right. So just that in itself, in what you're saying, it seems to be, and this seems to be an age-old thing, that it's always females. For some reason, since time began, there is a story that females need to be overrun, need to be taken over, need to be blamed, and that message doesn't seem to have stopped, does it? Because it's like, then you have to wonder why is that? Why is it? So a lot of it doesn't make sense. For instance, Adam and Eve. The Eve came from Adam's rib. So you've got to question, and God's male, apparently, because he's, he. Yeah, do you see what I mean? So at some point, who told us these stories then, that the woman has to always be suppressed? The woman is there to be blamed. The woman is there she has to do this and she has to do that. And the woman is there to be taken over, even out of her identity now can be taken. So you have to at some point question it, that, if Eve came from Adam's rib, why don't men give birth through the rib? Why did they have a belly button that's attached to a woman and a woman gives birth to the child? It doesn't make sense, does it? So it's understandable when you're hearing these things, these attacks almost, it's your fault if you get raped, it's your fault because of what you wear.
And that's what I heard.
Then why isn't there a rule then out there about what women wear then? Well, there is for some religions, but it is that, who makes the clothes then? If this is what God is saying, why isn't it a law then made by God? Thou shalt not make certain clothes. It doesn't. If for those that believe in things, that's their free will, but it doesn't make sense to me when I see it in that way.
And to be fair, I didn't think about whether it made sense or not. I was confused. I was 11 and these adults were saying that, so I took that on board. And what they also said was, you know, it's wrong to have sex before marriage, and like I said, where you wear, and also it's wrong to take your own life. And not only did they say it was wrong, and at that age I didn't want to exist anymore because I found life too horrible to live with. Not just saying it was wrong, but they said you will be punished by God. So I thought, right, I'm going to be punished by God, and so I interpret it like that.
Well, then will God tell you that himself? Him? Why is it? You know, when did God write these books?
As a child, I just took on board what they said.
But looking at it now, when did these books say different things? Many people say different things. Many people have different theories. Wouldn't God, if God's inside of us, there is nothing there in space. It's in space. That's space out there. Everything in this room comes from a mind. It comes from in here, doesn't it? So everything comes from in here, and if it doesn't come from in here, the planet was already created from a mind. The planet's known as, or the world's known as mental. If it's known as mental, and something comes from in here, which it does, everything comes from the mind as a thought first before it turns into matter. So somebody had to think of the chair before it was made. So then, if it comes from inside of us, and these ideas come from inside of us, and you know, the pictures or the paint or whatever we want to invent comes from inside of us, then in that God, then when did God, you know, do you see what I mean? When did God speak to you and say that himself? Then who wrote, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I do see what you mean.
How come a few people get this message from God, but not all of us? If we can all think and daydream, aren't we all made up of the same stuff?
Well,
isn't God then evil, therefore, then as well, where if you get raped, if a man's son in the Bible gets raped, if a man's daughter gets raped, yeah, they only have to pay the father 12, I can't remember what the money was called in them days, and he has to marry her. Imagine marrying your rapist for 40 years. Imagine that. That's where it says.
And I lived my life based on what people like that, those kind of things that I heard growing up through school, even adulthood and everything. I didn't tell anybody because I was scared that I'm not letting anybody know how bad I am, that I'm being punished by God. But every single thing that I did, I was like, that's God punishing me. Even like stood at a traffic light and I was waiting.
And yet
it's God punishing me.
All loving and all forgiving.
Yeah, but not to me.
But not to you.
Because I'd had those thoughts of killing myself and what had happened. And I didn't even tell anybody till I was in therapy in my 30s. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't dare tell anybody. Let them know how bad I was, how evil I was, that God just didn't punish anybody. He only punishes some, but I was one of them. It's like I held on to that for the first 30 odd years of my life. Of what?
So it's massive, isn't it? How
those people told me.
Yeah, when you're born into a world where you're taught that these people are this and these people are that, because we have certain labels and we have certain uniforms on, which are just costumes. People are wearing costumes. Do you see what I mean? But we don't see them like costumes. We're like, this is serious business, this, you know. And it's like that, like we made time up and it's like, this is serious, why are you late? It's like the child's fault. Parents, but why are you late? This is serious business. And then we become serious, and then our happiness begins to wane because of this made up story. And it's that realization of somebody made a story up and you believe them. And you're trying to fit into someone else's narrative. You're trying to fit into someone else's daydream. And so that's why when you look and you say, you know, it doesn't make sense if somebody says that you need to be good And that's where it's supposed to be, and we're supposed to be good. And why are we constantly being fed nasty stuff? Why are we being fed nasty food and nothing happens then? Why are we being fed nasty chemicals and nothing happens then? At some point, do you not question these people in authority they don't have authority? It's pretend. It's pretend that I've got a pretending label, and it affords me to help people. I want to help people, but I have to get a pretending label to do it in this way. And that's what everybody gets. And then you all read the books that you're taught to read. Don't read outside of there. We have our own libraries. You all read this.
Yeah, and you get a reading list and what's acceptable to read.
Yeah, and that's what they do in cults. They do that in all cults. And so that's where cult comes from, a culture. And so you're told, this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're going to read, and this is what you're going to learn. And then you're going to go out, and then you're given this label, and it's just made up. Can you see it's all made up? And then you give it a label then, and then you're going to go out, and everybody will believe in it, because if we teach them from a young age, as the Jesuits said, show me the boy age 7, I'll show you the man.
Yeah.
Then you're going to believe
Because
it.
I know at the beginning of therapy, my previous therapist and yourself were able to pick real big holes in my belief system about myself and about being punished by God and that kind of thing. But I still didn't want to see it, because I'd lived in that world and that with that belief for 30 years. It was like, yeah, I don't care that there's a big hole in my story, but that's how 30 years of my life has been.
Yeah, but it's that way. It's very difficult, even though, in some of the books, there's not, some of the books that say, oh, this is the Bible, this is, but the author, I don't see the author's name as God. Do you see what I mean? So some of the books are questionable, because it's that you turn to page. But when I was went to school when I was young, went to church within the school. When I was young, it was turn to page, but it was never turned to the pages that I read later on. And some of the evil that's in there, there's slavery in there, there's all these things. It's like, what kind of God is that? And then the contradictory of God is all loving, all of this. That's not.
But then they told me I'd be punished by God.
That you'll be punished by God, and it's like, well, how come God doesn't come and tell me that himself then? If he teaches it, gives us everything, and God's inside of us, because, like, say for instance, you wanted a new sofa. Yeah. Do you pray? Do you see it? It's on its way now. It's coming from space. It's coming. We're praying up there to nothing. It's coming in from space. No, it's in here. Every feeling, every thought comes from in here. In this is your holy temple, and yet we're constantly violating it.
Your mind's blown.
Okay.
I feel I'm somewhere different to where I thought I was. Yeah.
But we have these very convincing stories that we're told, and it's okay for whoever wants to believe them, and it's okay for you to question them. But remember what you were told as you did.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
You can't say that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. I asked a clergyman one time. I was studying with him, and I said, I'm studying the Bible, and I said, just on the very first bit, God said he wouldn't kill anyone by floods. And I just heard on the news that people have died. And his answer was, don't read that, read the New Testament. Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
Don't question it.
Because years later, as in recently, I've not had any involvement with the church after then, because I didn't want people to know how evil I was. Recently, as in the last few years, I did approach a vicar and say, I had this experience, and it shaped what they said, really shaped my whole life. And I don't know what I wanted. Maybe I wanted I'm sorry about that, or whatever. But she told me, well, they probably didn't say that, so it's probably just what you heard. And it's like blaming me again for it.
So you were gaslit.
Yeah. And I thought, I just wanted somebody to say, oh, I'm sorry that you had that experience, or I don't know what I wanted, to be fair.
Maybe it might have just been a feedback to, you know, to be mindful of children who are around and how
Yeah.
they might interpret
I don't
things.
think I wanted anything. I think I just wanted to tell them this is what
This is how
impacted me.
message, yeah.
And I got, like you say, I got blamed.
Well, I think as well, I think there's a lot of threats out there that you heard a lot of threats if you do that. So it's like these rules: if you do that, you'll be punished. If you do that, you'll be punished.
Yeah.
If you do that, you'll be punished. There's a lot of threats.
Whether it was being abused, being raped,
How
being
can you
smacked,
say,
or being punished by
exactly,
God.
So how can you say that you're bad coming from a book that's supposed to be good, that the book is always going to punish you? It's like, I have to question then, what kind of God is that? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and I didn't question it that.
What kind of God is that, you know, that's going to punish you? And it's a jealous God as well, so it has an ego, and it's like, what kind of God is that?
Yeah.
So is that the creator, or is it just one of the gods? Do you see what I mean? So you have to question that, you know, if this is all good, and it's, you know, this God's good and he's pure and he's he and he's all of this and he's all of this and he's all of this. I have to question then, you know, is this true?
And that's why I love children who have questions. When I've worked, you know, I've done a lot, my career has been working with young people, and I love questions.
Yes.
And I'll never shut a question down.
Because that's our innate intelligence, but it gets shut down. It gets shut down for something that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Do we end there?
I think it's a good idea. I need to lie down. Thank you.